And it's You're on, Francesca.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Punish for Protecting on the March.us. Thank you, Ted. And we are here today with a breaking story. This story is really going to wake people up today. It's actually one of my wonderful chapter leaders and her daughter and a very good friend. And this story is actually about the same judge in El Paso, Texas, that we are exposing today. We actually have major evidence on this judge, on the abuse to children, the utter and extreme and vile abuse to these children and these mothers. Utterly disgusting, and we actually can't wait to show this to you. We had our team doing some behind-the-scenes investigating, and so we found a lot of evidence, in particular on this judge. I think what I'm going to do right off the bat is actually start with my chapter leader from Texas right now, who's done such great work for us for the past few months. She's the administrator, and she actually put together our Punish for Protecting national advocacy group page that everybody is joining as we are building this army nationally. And I'm going to introduce you to her right now. She's also the grandmother of baby M, and her name is Rhonda McFetridge. Rhonda, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. We also have her daughter today, Kristen, and actually Grubb is her new married name, so congratulations on your new marriage.
Thank you.
She's the mother of baby M. And then we have their dear friend, Erica Vanilla, and she's the mother of baby H. They both have the same judge, and they've all been put through utter hell. But the children have both been put through utter danger and high risk, and we're going to show that today. I'm going to start out with the baby M story right now with Rhonda and Kristen. And I'm going to have you, and actually Ted is going to present to you guys all the evidence that we have in documentation. You should be able to see it on your screen as we go through. Kristen, did you want to kind of lay a little foundation, and then your mom can kind of pick up in certain areas?
Yes. Well, let me summarize this as best as I can to get to this point. I had been fighting in family court with the parental influence since 2011, since my daughter was about 3 months old. He already had a history of abusive behavior towards me, and he displayed that abusive behavior as well towards my daughter, even under supervised visitation with the court system. So for 2 years, he was considered one of the longest supervised parents at that time in the county, because during supervision, he was neglecting my child's needs. She was also diagnosed high functioning autistic. So medically, he was also neglecting her. To the point where I would pick her up from visitations and she'd be screaming, starving, and I'd have to pull over and bottle feed her. So that was kind of what was going on at that point. Now, when discovery of sexual abuse came about, that didn't happen until he was granted his first extended unsupervised visit with her. Francesca, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, honey. I've been muted because there's a little bit of tinny background noise, and I want to make sure that we have a clear sound.
Oh, okay.
So I just wanted you to kind of continue with what's occurred, and we have the judge on the screen, and he wanted to mention who she is, and the damages that she's been doing, and the ignoring of the evidence and so on that we're about to show here today.
Yes, her name is Judge Yahara Lisa Gutierrez in the 65th Court in the El Paso, Texas County Court. She actually was not the initial judge to take my case. The case was handed over to her, and I want to say it was March or April of 2014. At that point, it had already been confirmed through medical examination that my daughter had suffered some sexual abuse, which the parental influence had drawn to my attention, which initiated all of the investigation. So he actually called me by phone during his first extended visitation, and his words were that baby M was red down there. And I asked him, well, what do you mean she's red down there? And he said, well, she's red. And I said, well, did you change her diaper? Well, yeah, I did. Okay. And I said, well, continue with changing the diaper and making sure she's okay. Well, he called me back to tell me that she still looked the same. And then he added the excuse that he believed it could be because she had been riding on his back. Well, my daughter started displaying, and she had been displaying behaviors since she had been forced to visit with him, very fearful behaviors, not wanting to go on visitations, hiding from him, taking aggression out on me when she'd come home from visits. So when these physical symptoms started to show, she started really telling me that she had pain. What she would tell me is, I have owies. And she started directing attention to her private area. And I was noticing that her vaginal area was very red, very swollen, did not look right, never looked that way before. It was not diaper rash. And the night that I finally took her to get examined by a nurse, she had actually had Desitin placed inside her vagina. And when the nurse examined her, she noted that that was very unusual. This was November the 4th of 2013. Extended unsupervised visits had not been taking place for very long. And during the examination, which I did not find out the details till later, my daughter had injuries to her anal area. and her vaginal area. And this was going on during visitation with the parental influence. So, take it forward to March and April 2014, when Judge Yahada Lisa was presiding over my case. I had petitioned a motion to modify, outlining all the allegations of abuse, medical neglect for her autism, physical neglect of her needs, emotional and mental distress, and sexual abuse. During the hearing, the parental influence actually stated that the reason why my daughter, baby M, had redness and injury to her vaginal area was because he had taken her on a walk with a dog, and my daughter had fallen and her heel went up inside her vagina, and that's how she was injured. And then he went on to give the excuse that she was rubbing herself up against a bathtub. So these are the reasons being given for my daughter having injury. The judge heard all this, heard the concerns, came to her judgment, put in the papers that she agreed that the allegations were proven to be true. So she gave me sole managing conservatorship in the state of Texas, took away all his managing conservatorship rights, but gave him extended unsupervised visitation. So
say that again. Extended what kind of visitation?
Extended unsupervised visitation.
I just want to make sure I heard that correctly. So she finds this out, admits that it's true, and we're going to show the evidence of how true that is. We have actual evidence, documented evidence, and photographs. And she gives him unsupervised, so she gives him unfettered access to this child.
Yes.
Okay. And that is Judge Yahara. I'm going to probably not say it as well as you guys. Gutierrez.
Yes.
Okay. El Paso, Texas. Go ahead.
So, needless to say, I was devastated because no parent wants to willingly or intentionally put their child in harm's way. So being forced by the judge to put my child, baby M, back in the care of a person that she agrees is guilty of everything I have alleged, I'm being forced to send her back, and I'm being told there's nothing I can do about it, that I have to comply with this court order.
I just want to say these judges are insane, and the attorneys that agree with them are as mentally ill and mentally sick as these judges. Okay? And if we don't expose these stories and protect and save these kids, okay, it would be like if your house is on fire and you say we can't talk about it or allege that it's on fire. Or if somebody is being raped where you can't really talk about it and allege they're being raped, but who do you scream out to get them to stop? Or if somebody's being beat up in the parking lot and we say, well, we're just alleging that it's being done. No, it's being done. And so our show is here to expose that it's being done. And the reason we chose to show all the evidence that we're going to be showing today and exposing this judge of her vile crimes against these babies and the length of time she's allowing this abuse to your families is because no one else is. And everybody thinks we have to keep it confidential. All bets are off, and there's no such thing as keeping it confidential when a child is being abused in this manner. All bets are off. Just like an Amber Alert, and I've said this before, all of a sudden the confidentiality goes out the window, and the name gets shown, and the face gets shown all over the internet, all over the news, all over national news. So don't give me that if anybody's even thinking that. I don't even want to hear it. We've been doing this for too long. We've been hiding under a rock for too damn long while these children are being abused. Continue with your story.
So after this order is put in place, I was ordered with the other parental influence to go speak to a social worker about crafting an extended visitation plan, which is the last thing I wanted to do. I went and sat down and formed this plan with this man. And during formulating this extended visitation plan, he brings up the abuse himself. So the social worker asks him to get into more detail because during this discussion, he states that baby M comes to him fine from me, but he does not return her fine to me. So the social worker asked him to repeat himself. She said, so you're telling me that the child comes to you fine, but she does not come back to the mother fine? He said, yes. She says, well, if sexual abuse is really going on, then you need to get to the bottom of this. But let's go ahead and continue on with the rest of our visitation plan. So I'm horrified that he just said what he said in front of the social worker. She did nothing. She didn't report it to the judge, nothing. It was just kind of like a blip in her schedule. Like, let's just continue on with scheduling this visitation. So the abuse didn't stop there. He got his extended visitation, which included overnights. The schedule for an autistic child was outrageous. He was getting every other weekend, plus he was getting extended Thursday into Friday overnight visits every week. So baby M had absolutely no stability for her disability, on top of being re-exposed to continued abuse. So I wound up taking her again to two different, actually, let me total it up. She's had 4 SANE examinations total since the first one, continues to be re-victimized, continue to see the same injuries. I'm finally just done with it. I don't know what else to do, because I'm being told I have to give my child over for visitation, or I'm going to be in contempt of court. I risk losing my child if I do not abide by this court order. And the final straw for me was my daughter came home from a visitation. Baby M had a huge bite mark on her leg. And she told me that...
Hold on a second. What kind? She was bit by a dog. She was bit by another child. A mouth of an adult.
This is a mouth of an adult, a human.
That's what I assumed. But
so I asked her, by this time, you know, when she first sustained sexual abuse injuries, she was 2. By the time this bite had taken place, she was 4. So during this time, when they're supposed to be investigating crimes against baby M, I'm being told initially when she's 2 that, well, she's too little. She can't communicate to us what happened. So you're just going to have to wait and gather more evidence and wait until she can say something, which I thought was insane. So then she gets old enough in their eyes where what she says holds some truth, and they tell me that I'm coaching her. So when I asked her how...
I'm sorry. You were coaching her while she had redness and soreness and bites, and you coached that too, I assume. You must.
Yes.
Have. I mean, when she's not in your care and she comes back to you in this utter damage, any logical thinking person is going to think you coached that person. So when somebody gets beaten and bruised from some kind of a perpetrator out there, it has to be that a mother coached that person. It has to be. There's no other answer that would make any sense, right?
Right.
Oh my God.
So I asked baby M what happened, and she told me that she had been hit. That was the word that she was using. She identified, we waited. She actually had my daughter had been in counseling for many years. Since we found out about the sexual abuse, I had placed her in counseling. So she actually had a counseling appointment that day after she had just been dropped off and had this bite mark on her leg. Waited to, didn't ask her any further questions, took her to the counseling appointment. The counselor asked her, said, who did this to you? She asked, how did this happen? What happened? And my daughter told the counselor that daddy had hit her. So I went forward, tried to get another protective order, was denied. This same judge was presiding over the protective order hearing. It was a total circus. The parental influence brought in family court issues, which should not have been permitted because it was a family violence hearing. The judge saw the photos of the bite mark on baby M's leg. She heard testimony and she denied that she believed anything had happened to my daughter, that it was not abuse, that he the parental influence had done nothing wrong. And then she ordered me to immediately hand my daughter over for unsupervised access that day at noon with the parental influence.
Okay, stop right there, because everyone that's watching, the viewing audience right now, if you look above on the screen, you can see this psychotic judge. There's her face, there's her name. Next to her, there she is, partying it up. Wait till you see what we have next. Next to that, you will see part 1 of evidence. We've got all of the evidence you're going to need to see why this is happening in our country, why these judges are making this decision, why the people are so blind to their own constitution and the foundations of the land, and what's our inalienable, can't put a lien on it, can't change it, God-given rights as parents to protect and parent our own children and keep them safe from danger. And we are still being snowed in this country to believe otherwise, including attorneys that need to go back to school. Okay? But as you can see, I'm very aggravated and fired up. This is one of my chapter leaders who I love and adore. And I am very pissed off about this. When you see this evidence today, beyond barbaric, beyond disgusting, beyond immoral, okay? Beyond unethical, beyond lack of integrity, beyond lack of accountability, just beyond it all, and why we need to do a national citizens arrest, everybody. We are millions strong across this country. Okay, continue.
So upon hearing that I was going to have to hand baby M back over to the very person that she identified many times, this was not the first time she identified that he was harming her. So I'm being told I need to hand her over. I was forced in a position that no parent should be forced into, because the judge would not put anything in place to protect baby M. I couldn't get help from the police. I couldn't get help from the DA's office. I was forced in a position where I withheld visitation. I broke the court order. I was now in contempt, and I fled with my daughter and took her to safety. And so from that point, I've been in the state of Missouri, fled to protect her life. I put in measures that I'm taking currently to continue to protect her. During the time that I was in hiding, that I was protecting her, a default judgment order was put in place giving the parental influence sole custody of baby M. I was not properly served, and so this is an order that I am currently appealing in the 8th Court of Appeals in El Paso, Texas County. Default order was put in place. Parental influence then immediately filed kidnapping charges against me. And I was hunted down with my daughter. And in March of 2016, I was arrested. I was booked, and actually in Arkansas is where they arrested me. Arrested, booked in the Boone County Jail. I spent a week in that jail, and I spent 4 days in transport back to El Paso County. And I was released right before Easter. Took my daughter. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to her. I told her I'd be right back. That was the last thing I've said to her.
Okay, hold on a second, though, Kristen, because I want to mention a few things here. I mean, obviously, you're a horrible person, so you belong in jail. You're just disgusting. I mean, you have a criminal history, let's face it, right? Mm-hmm. So you should be arrested for kidnapping because, you know, why would any mother want to protect their child from sex abuse? I mean, that's just a barbaric thing that you could possibly even dream of, trying to protect your child. So you had every right going to jail, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, just awful for wanting to do what I instinctually need to do, which is protect my child.
And what about the fact that your child, I mean, you know, they're protecting her from, I guess, you for trying to protect her. Did anybody think for a minute that this was harmful to her, to strip her away from her mother who loves her mother who's been protecting her and who's been providing for her and who has been raising her since your womb, actually. I always like to say that because where she grew and where she was, you know, first developed was inside of you. But
yes.
I guess none of that mattered because, you know, you horrible person, you with a criminal history that you don't have, you know, wanted to protect your daughter. So now all of a sudden you're arrested, you find yourself in jail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, jail. being accused of, not only was I being accused of kidnapping, but aggravated kidnapping, which I still don't understand why I was charged with aggravated kidnapping. But, I had these pending charges hanging over my head for a good year. And it wasn't until recently, in March of 2017, that the charges were dropped. It was just completely dismissed, dropped. So that's no longer, hanging over my head. But I still don't have baby M. I haven't seen her for almost 2 years. I've tried to make contact, called the other parental influence. I've sent letters, made contact through Facebook, sent packages for up until recently. Many of them rejected, not picked up, phone calls not received. The other parental influence actually disconnected the only phone number I had to reach him through after Christmas last year. So I couldn't even try to call through the phone for about a year. Recently, I have filed a motion to modify in the state of Missouri. And so magically, the past 2 months or so, packages have been received and signed for. But I've still not heard from baby M.
And I want to say that federally, when you're a domestic violence victim and someone's being abused, you're legally allowed to go to any state you want. Nobody honors that anymore. Okay? Nobody honors that. And it's despicable. Okay? Because criminals have more rights, not legitimately and not legally, but they're given more rights illegally and unlawfully. Okay? Pseudo rights over victims. Okay?
Yes.
So, and that's something that the American Bar Association needs to wake up to. Okay, because the damages that they're causing the American people and children in the millions, okay, is just barbaric and off the charts. So, and you guys didn't have a federal confidential address, because under that program, you're even triply protected, and they violate that as well.
No, nothing, no protective measures were ever put in place for baby M or me, ever.
Sick.
And I have a well-documented history of abusive behavior, not only towards me before baby M came into the world, but extended documentation of abuse against baby M. And like I said earlier, I reached out to every channel I possibly could for help, and it fell flat. Nothing happened. So I was left to make the only decision I knew to make, and that was to leave and seek help elsewhere.
When one of the things that we like to do with Punish for Protecting is take ignorance such as this and turn it into common sense. Because you know what? Even if our laws did say that these things were okay that they're doing, okay, then we would be like the most, we seriously, like, this is the 21st century. We're supposed to be an intelligent people. And if this is okay to these crazy people in these positions of authority, then we definitely need to start reevaluating their mental state and their education. Because I don't care how many degrees somebody has at the end of their name. If they think that this is okay, it's time to start re-speaking a whole new language that they're going to understand, like C-spot run, and make it real basic for them. Because this is unbelievable. Absolutely beyond unbelievable. But each story is. And again, this is why we're doing this National Citizens Arrest Day. And actually, Cliff Erickson, who's our Sullivan County, New York chapter leader for the coalition, his page, just so you guys know, and he's putting it here on Facebook right now. I just was able to take a quick glance here. His page has it's Sullivan County Facebook page that he runs, and it's 15,000 members on that page alone. Okay, so that's 15,000 more people that need to be there. You need to put your feet on the ground. You need to go and be a part of this move that we're doing on January 3rd, 2018. There's no reason that we cannot stop this country, dead stop, for one whole day. That means no gas, no courts, no job, no work, nothing on that day. You stop for one day and you arrest the country. That means an arrest actually means that you've stopped. When you get pulled over by a cop, you've been arrested. You might not be in cuffs. You didn't get thumbprinted, but you've now been arrested. You've been detained. That's what the word means. So that's what we're doing on that day. And we're not personally the ones who are cuffing the judges, but by name, spelled correctly, county, state, court, and abuse, the child predator services, caseworkers, and any public official, any public servant, okay, will be held accountable for their actions of treason, child abuse, murder, pedophilia, and so on and so forth. And again, people, wake up. We are millions strong. Start using the power that you have. I'm going to now, do you have anything else that you wanted to add to this before I turn it over to your mom?
All I would like to add is, you know, it's time to bring to light these things that are happening in the dark. It's been in the dark for a very long time, and not a lot of people understand the nature of what a domestic violence victim is up against when they go into family court. You are losing before an order is even put into place. So I just want to thank you that you've given me the time, all of us the time to get our stories out there, because, you know, we don't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Well, you're welcome, and you have a voice now. And we need to give a voice to all these children, and that's why we have to do this. And again, even if there's sub-laws, I'll call them sub-laws, okay? Even if there's sub-laws, it's under interpretation, and it's how any really good attorney knows how to argue something in a court of law, okay? That would cause things to go into the right place in the first place, okay? Because I've seen attorneys take a same situation, and one attorney say, oh, but this says this, and that says that, and they walk in and they lose. Okay. And another attorney walks in with common sense, common law, a brain in their head, and they know how to argue something. Okay. So it has to do with that as well. But I'm not going to get into all of the semantics right now, because that's really not important. What's important is that children are being endangered and families are being endangered. Okay. And they're going to answer to God for it. And we know that to be very, very true. And that's something that we know. Yes. Be very true. So, and they will answer to God for it, because I don't care what law man writes. I really could give a crap what law man writes. If it violates God's law, you are so far beneath the mark that you're desperately deceived and clueless. So, yes. Okay, I'm going to turn this over now to your mom, to Rhonda. Okay. And thank you so much, Kristen.
Thank you, Francesca.
Here, if there's more questions, go ahead, Rhonda. Thank you so much. I think your sound. Hold on, Rhonda. Let me just unmute.
Okay.
You. There you go.
Okay.
So what did you want to add to this? Because I know that we got some pictures, some party people in the house pictures.
Okay.
Paternal influence. And what is he doing there when we're about to show that on the screen?
Okay. I got to see it so I know which one you're.
He's with a dark-haired girl. He's wearing a green shirt. It's about to come up on the screen.
Okay.
And it's at the same party where the judge is, and who else?
Okay, I just need to know which one you're referring to right now. I can't see it.
I'm waiting on it actually to come on the screen.
Okay.
It's going to come on the screen, but the two basic pictures of the party that went on, and
okay.
What was he doing at that party? Who was he with? Because we're going to show them all.
Okay. All right. Well, the one at the Christmas party. I mean, I don't know what he's doing. I assume he was bartending, because that's what he does for a living. That's what he's done for many, many years. And it appears that he's bartending in that photo. Yeah, you know, this party, according to the Facebook post, and it's a public post, took place in December of 2015. And that's when my daughter was in hiding with with my granddaughter to keep her safe. So that's when this party took place, and he's there with the judge. I mean, my jaw just dropped when I saw that photo. It dropped. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Well, our team is the one that found all that publicly exposed on Facebook. I found that amazing that a judge would be in such a party picture. But I mean, she should be celebrating and having a good time while she's abusing children and families. I mean, why not? That's what we pay her for, isn't it? Isn't that why we pay her the big bucks?
I'm just thinking, wow. Small party, a private party in a home. And I think maybe 20, I just kind of did a head count on, there's a group photo, maybe 20 people give or take.
Oh,
So it was a private, intimate party at a home. And Yahara Lisa Gutierrez is there, the judge over my daughter's case. And another family court judge, Laura Strothman, was there as well. And Laura Strothman was my daughter's first attorney way, way back when this first started. And my daughter fired her for unprofessional behavior and for not vigorously defending her as she should have. And then she hired a new attorney. So both of those judges, both family court judges at that party where he was with them.
So we're actually showing the picture of the party, and then we see him, he looks like he's all zooted up to me. But anyway, there he is in a green shirt. Somebody's next to him. There's a young lady with dark hair.
Okay, that's not the part. That picture is where he works, and that picture is excuse me, I'm getting tongue tied. That picture is a picture of him with the criminal judge's daughter, the judge that was presiding over the criminal case against my daughter.
Oh, that's criminal court. They can hang out together. I always thought, I must be so foolish. I always thought that was a conflict of interest, but it probably isn't anymore because, we don't follow the real laws of the land anymore.
Well, apparently they were working together there. I think she worked there as well. And, his body language in that picture is very, very interesting to me because it looks like a message to me like, aha, look who I know. I know the judge's daughter. Mm-hmm. And that picture was posted a few months after my daughter was arrested. My daughter was arrested in March of 2016.
They were probably celebrating her arrest. I mean, that's what they have the right to do, don't they?
I don't know. And that photo was posted in June of 2016, a few months later.
That's wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
So he's at a party with the judge who is overseeing my daughter's case, and then he works with the criminal judge's daughter, and he made sure to put that out there publicly.
I just saw something really cool, you guys. It's very encouraging. Kirk's Law Corner, Kirk Pendergrass just posted that off, and there's more, but it went too fast for me to grab the first part of it, but I'm sure Kirk's going to talk about this publicly. All federal funding to state agencies are going to be abolished, as well as some federal agencies. It's coming, folks. And you can know that if Kirk says something, you can take it to the bank and cash that check. So, just so you know, that's awesome. And I have been knowing about this happening. So, yeah. He's about the only person, one of the only people that I enjoy listening to, because I'm so sick and tired of hearing half-truths and deceptive baloney. So it's really nice to listen to him, somebody who actually speaks about our true rights, which we already know. We inherently know what our true rights are. Anybody that has a moral compass would know right from wrong. So go ahead, Rhonda.
Well, so yeah, those pictures are very, very concerning. A complaint has been filed against the judge for that inappropriate behavior for being at the party with my granddaughter's father. And so, yeah, extremely concerning. Who knows what was discussed at that party? Who knows? I mean, it's inappropriate. It's the appearance of impropriety.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one being her attorney and then not zealously representing her, which you wouldn't be retained in the first place if you're not going to be. That's right. Between you and the person that is supposed to be representing you and being your voice.
Right. Well, and then that other judge, Laura Strothman, she was my daughter's attorney in the very beginning, and she became a judge later. So, now she's a family court judge. And she's also on my granddaughter's father's Facebook friends list as well.
That's nice.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So, there's just a lot of concerning connections, a lot of concerning relationships. Mm-hmm.
Now, Rhonda, earlier before we got on here, you did tell me that there's been other issues with this Judge Gutierrez, other complaints about her, which there's, I mean, if you pull up any judge's name, you're going to find a laundry list of complaints.
Right.
But what was occurring with her prior to this?
Well, Erica would be much better at telling you about that because there's an article in a Mexican newspaper about it, and I don't speak or read Spanish, but Erica does, and she could tell you more about that much better than I can.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to add to this story at this time?
Yeah, I will just say this. I will say I have lived this every step of the way with my daughter. Mm-hmm. I have seen it all. I've witnessed it all. I've heard it. I've witnessed my granddaughter begging and crying not to go with her father. I have I've seen it all. I was there during the SANE exam. I heard the SANE nurse tell my daughter, she said, she thanked my daughter profusely for bringing her in and told her, thank you for bringing her in. Most moms ignore this until it's too late. And she said, thank you. And then she said, take good care of yourself because this is going to be a long ride, a long road. And boy, we had no idea.
Yeah.
It's been a nightmare ever since. And, we've tried to get help. My daughter tried to get help from every legal appropriate channel over and over again, and no help. And it's been devastating. It's been devastating.
Well, that's because they're doing a fraud system. They're doing a pseudo law, which is false, not true, not real, not reality, not legal. They're just playing a game. They're criminals on every level, and anybody that works for them. Or, you know what? Here's my feel on this. You can't fight an enemy that you don't know their game. In other words, if you don't know your enemy, see your enemy, or come in any kind of agreement at all whatsoever with that enemy, you can't conquer that enemy.
Right.
But when you know that your enemy and you know your truth, okay, against that enemy, that's how you bind that enemy and destroy it. But I see people that come into even the smallest level of agreement with the enemy, you've lost. You've just lost. And you will never beat that enemy. It's like a chess player. It's like, anything, playing a sport. You have to know specifically your enemy. And if you you lose all traction. You lose all, if you're playing a game with somebody and you're having somebody attacking you, physically attacking you, and you come into some kind of an agreement with that, you're going to lose.
Right.
You have to know how to resist. You have to know how to fight. And that's the problem, is that most attorneys don't know how to fight for their clients because they're so blinded and so deceived by the judicial system that how can they actually fight for you? Honestly, and they'll do a whole different song and dance. I've court watched all over this country. They'll do a different song and dance in a different court in the same building. And this case is being very similar. So that says a lot right there. And I always use this analogy all the time. If you go into a restaurant and you order a steak dinner, it's the same steak dinner. But if you go into one courtroom, you're going to get half a chewed steak. But in another courtroom, you may get the full steak. But you still paid for the same meal. Well, the law is the law is the law is the law. So what's in that menu is supposed to be the bill you pay for that exact meal, not a half-chewed steak. And a lot of people are getting a half-chewed steak. And the reason they're getting that is because they don't know the foundational truths of our inalienable rights and our Constitution. And when they don't know that, the whole foundation has fallen on its face. And unfortunately, they get represented by these attorneys that, like I said, in a nice way I'll put it, they don't know their ass from their elbow, or they're deceived, or they're too scared of the court. So they do what the court tells them. And I probably, if Kirk is on right now, he's probably real happy to hear that. But anyway.
Go ahead. I just wanted to interject. I just wanted to say that Kristen's current attorney is actually an excellent attorney. And he is one of the rare few that really represented my daughter and my granddaughter honestly and with integrity. And he did an excellent job. But, nobody, CPS, the police, the judge, they didn't do their jobs.
Right.
So it made it impossible for him. He tried very hard. And he was successful many times, but the deck was stacked against my daughter and my granddaughter. It was stacked against them. And so, it doesn't matter how good of an attorney you are, the deck was stacked.
Well, what's good about having a good attorney, though, because I have a whole slew of them, and what's good about having them, though, is that it all goes on record correctly. They make sure that it goes on record correctly. A lot of them will come in with their own transcriptionist to make sure that the judges don't tweak the transcripts like they do, forge the transcripts, certain things like that. So in the long run, and when it comes to like an appeal or a federal lawsuit, which is what we're all gearing towards and doing, you have the proper accountability on record. And you can prove it through all of that. Mm-hmm. So, even though you may lose the battle, you win the war in the long run, even though the suffering is tremendously horrible and uncalled for. Yes. But that's the good thing about it, a good attorney, and an attorney that actually really fights for you.
Yeah, he's awesome.
As an advocate, I couldn't fight for another person if I'm going to sit here and agree with the enemy. Like how contradictory is that?
Right.
It makes sense. I'm not going to sit here and agree with something that, even if it is a quote unquote law, I'm not going to agree with that. I'm not going to agree with something that's, you know, doing this type of damage. To me, that doesn't even make any logical sense at all. But so was there anything else you wanted to add to this case before we
Well, there's so much I could tell you, but it would take a long time. So, I mean, I'll show you this notebook here, full of documentation and evidence. And that's not even everything. There's so much. So I will say, though, thank you so much for giving us a voice and for listening to us and helping. We appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Well, I mean, thank you so much for doing all the wonderful advocacy work you're doing behind the scenes, and for this, all of the people that are coming together under Punish for Protecting and bringing families together again, and restoring safety to children, most important thing, and protecting them from these barbaric acts. So thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you more than anything. Okay, so we're going to go to Erica Bonella now, and also she has the same judge. So this is all about the same judge and these insane renderings, court decision renderings. Erica, tell us your story, and then I guess it was we were all talking earlier, so forgive me. I had thought it was Rhonda, but it was you that actually talked about this judge having other issues prior to even your cases and other cases. Oh, I need to unmute you. I'm sorry. There you go, honey. You're unmuted. Sorry.
Okay. No, I'll go ahead and start a little bit with my case, and then we'll go about the judge's behavior. But I married my ex-husband back in August of 2012. The abuse I experienced from him was at all levels, and it probably started immediately. I want to say weeks after becoming pregnant with my daughter in the following month of September 2012. Due to this abuse, you know, I did stay quiet for a while. There was periods of distress and where I was going to be thought to be unbelievable, especially he would constantly remind me that his brother had local connections, being that he was an immigration attorney there locally that would work closely with the court system and local authorities, you know, that he would try to block me in every way possible and constantly threaten me that he would take my daughter. I finally just decided to leave our home in September of 2013 after putting up with this abusive behavior. And my daughter was 3 months. Even though I was still being constantly threatened by him that there would be severe consequences if I left him with our daughter. Instead of getting any type of the protection I needed from the court system, I was instead severely punished for leaving my abuser before things were going to get worse, even though the state of Texas at the time in 2015, under the laws that I referenced in those sections of 207 and 204, they had already recognized that I had to leave my job due to the domestic violence and abuse that I was experiencing. I was denied the protection, but unfortunately my daughter was allowed to have visitation with an abuser by the court system. I was also being forced to co-parent with the person I had come to basically fear for my life, and I would no longer be there to protect and care for my daughter if the situation was to arise. Which
and Erica, we're gonna, as you're speaking, because I'm trying to watch the live feed at the same time, and as you're speaking, we're going to be putting up his criminal history as well as you explain that. And I just want to go back to one more point. We also have sexual abuse photographs of baby M. That yes. I don't know if the viewing audience got to see it because I missed some of the live feed. So at some point we will show that again, so that in case you did miss that, we will show that again. But go ahead, Erica. I'm sorry. Just want to let everybody know that.
Okay. So when the visitation started, my daughter also became the victim of abuse and neglect. The documented incidents of the abuse have been all compiled into a police report to show a listing of a total of 17 injuries with pictures during this period of time that were to be presented in court. Not to mention there were several incidents of neglect. Those were also documented and submitted with medical notes from her pediatrician. However, the same story as Kristen, the further investigations were never completed by the authorities, and there was a complete system failure after every incident to protect my daughter from the accused from further abuse and neglect. Because of all this, you know, I and I'm going back to the court, showing the evidence. The judge decided to grant him, again, a same amount of visitation.
So she's granting it despite all the abuse. She's demanding.
Yes. Yes.
We everybody that knows what we do, everybody that knows the integrity that we have, knows that we are all for healthy parents co-parenting. But they force co-parenting, which we know is absolutely no logical thinking person would ever say. I never talked to anybody that would actually say you should co-parent with an abuser, because that's like, okay, we should just go co-parent with Mr. Manson, who just died. Why not? Because so what? You still need to do it. So nobody with any half a brain would ever say that. But that's what they were enforcing you to do at your child's expense. And it was, again, unfettered access and unsupervised, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But then they don't want you to co-parent anymore when you want to protect them. Then all of a sudden co-parenting just goes out the window, and you just get abused and you get punished and you lose your children. Because illogical, undefined co-parenting definition that doesn't divide or protect people from any kind of abuse. So you are further abused by the courts. I mean, I think I just explained that pretty clear, right?
Yes, that is correct. And because I also decided to withhold visitation to protect her, and I also left the state of Texas, very similar story as Kristen, with my daughter in the spring of 2015. After fighting the court system and the same judge for almost 2 years. In the summer of 2015, I also defaulted, same story as Kristen, on a custody order since I was no longer in Texas, and my ex-husband received the primary joint conservatorship, which is what they call it in Texas, and was given to her father, and I was given a secondary joint managing conservatorship. Unfortunately, in December of 2015, upon my ex-husband's death, his brother, who's an immigration lawyer, had the judge and his family lawyer, which is the opposing counsel, sign fraudulent court documents. They basically signed for my deceased ex in order to issue a warrant for my arrest for violating the court order, the court visitation order. They did not follow due process. Shortly right after these fraudulent documents were being filed, I was arrested for the same charges as Kristen, which is they were trying to also put that aggravating kidnapping charge, which Francesca, I'm not sure if you're aware, but in the state of Texas, when it's aggravated kidnapping, it's very specific, and it states that it's where you kidnap the person where the victim suffers seriously bodily injury harm, and you're holding a person for ransom or reward, which is nothing Kristen and I were doing to our daughters.
I absolutely do know that, actually, very, very much so. I have a lot of cases out of Texas, and I do know, and I have, I'm not going to get into too much of this detail, but some of the people that are actually normal and healthy, that think with the right mind in Texas, that actually try to protect mothers and children, and also fathers and children, because as everyone knows also that we stand for both mother and father, and we are actually probably one of the fewest organizations that have actually united moms and dads together to fight this vicious system. But yes, and I'm curious about something though. Did you go into the child's bedroom and kidnap him from the bedroom into the living room? I mean,
no, I had custody of my daughter since she was born.
That's I make a joke out of it. I'm facetious, but yeah, exactly.
And so when I was arrested down in Southern California, my daughter was taken by CPS in San Diego, California, which was our location at the time. I was detained as well as Kristen for a period of time, and I had to go back to court in Texas in the summer of 2016, right after this happened, to fight for custody again, not only now against, my ex's family, which specifically my ex-brother-in-law. At the hearing, this same judge gave my ex-brother-in-law, who is a paternal uncle with no legal standing for custody rights. He was at the time an attorney with a suspended law license. He was practicing with a suspended law license. And not to mention, he has also an arrest record for domestic family violence. This judge basically gave him custody of my daughter, and she gave me supervised visitation. for no reason. And the reason she told my attorney that she did this was because I violated also her custody order, her visitation order. My Texas attorney, who has also been really great and has fought for me, immediately filed an objection to the order. But I still have not been, because an objection was filed to the order. Same story as Kristen. I have not seen my daughter for almost 2 years.
Okay, so wait a minute. What happened to co-parenting?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I don't understand. Oh, I get it. I get it. Oh, co-parenting only works for the abuser. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me go back in the legal notes here.
Yes. And so then this is when I decided to also leave Texas, again, this time without my daughter, and try to get my case out of this judge's hands and docket to another jurisdiction and a state where my ex's family didn't have any connections. So I'm currently in Washington State, getting ready to also file modification orders to try to regain custody of my daughter as the only living parent. Francesca,
forgive me, I muted myself. Sorry. Yeah, it's barbaric. I mean, your stories are so much alike. And in this particular case, we have moms here. As you know, we do. It's amazing. We're doing about equal the amount of moms and dads, and it's all been the same patterns. We're seeing the abusers getting the children on either side, and it's just unbelievable. And then the two terminologies of co-parenting or the parental alienation are just defined in such a crazy way, where they're actually separating the protective parent from their children, and then in fact just taking the parent away from the child, and then definitely not safeguarding the children in any way, shape, or form, and putting them in utter harm. So it's just absolutely off the charts. I'm not sure if Ted actually put those up. I'm gonna have him. Well, I just want to make sure before I don't want to end what you were saying, but did you have anything else you wanted to add to your story before we have Ted put up the pictures of them?
Regarding my story, that's pretty much a good rough summary of it, plus some of the documents, the evidentiary documents that we have as well.
Yeah, he did put them all up for you as you were speaking, so it kind of went in order of where you were talking. I do want to go back to Baby M's story for a minute here, whereby we have a diagram of the actual sexual, and it's very explicit, guys, and I am sorry about that, but it is a drawing. But it is a diagram of the sexual abuse to the child that was admitted to, and yet this child is in the hands of the perpetrator. And as you saw, the party pictures and all the rest, so they all hang out together, and it's one big happy party. So that, I'm just going to give them a couple minutes here. My feed may be slower than you guys might already be seeing it. I'm not sure, but we're just going to wait on that before we wrap this up today. And we just pray that we did a good job of exposing today. That's what we do. While we're waiting on that too, I do want to say.
Can you see it now?
Let's see. Did you get that up there, Ted?
The drawings are up.
They're up. Okay, thank you. So you guys can see, and we're keeping both babies confidential. But this is utterly heartbreaking. And there's a few different things that I want to talk about, and it's back to the the January. Everybody's asking me. They're writing me and all of our core team members, which feel free to keep doing that. I appreciate all of you that please friend request me. Send me a message. Sometimes I will not accept some of the friend requests until I know a little bit more about you or somebody tells me, but friend request me, because I'm getting I'm happy to say I'm getting an overwhelming response to everybody wanting to help for the January 3rd, 2018 event of citizens arrest, national citizens arrest. This doesn't mean you got to think big. This doesn't mean 2 or 3 people are going out there and throwing handcuffs on a judge. No, not at all. We have a strategy. We have a plan. And we are working with a lot of people right now. So what we're doing in that is that we're working with veterans, because they've been one of the most abused people in our nation by the family courts. Okay. We are working with police officers. We are recruiting police officers that have gone into court with their uniform on and been just as mistreated and abused as we have as advocates and parents. Okay. we are recruiting all parents, all I call them ass kickers, anybody who has no fear. We're, everyone. And what we want to do is we're literally going to arrest the country for a day on January 3rd, 2018. We're going to be doing some public meetings so you guys can join and tell you how exactly we're doing this. And we are going to be calling them out by name, crime, abuse, et cetera, et cetera. So we have our core team. We have a whole lot of behind the scenes. And in preparation for being able to instruct you guys how to do it. I see a lot of messages coming through. You guys want to help. You want to do it, and that just makes me really happy because that's what this is about. See, our voice is getting louder and louder, bigger and bigger, and we're starting to realize just how large we are. And that is one of the reasons why I've always joined mothers and fathers to work together against the system. Okay? Not abusers, mothers and fathers that love and protect and provide for their children and keep them safe and raise them so that this abuse that you're seeing on the screen today doesn't continue. And so that's one of the things that we have been very successful at. And I'm very proud of my team because that's one of the things that we have been doing. And we've been unifying moms and dads because what the courts have been doing is they've been dividing you guys for so long. You needed a new set, fresh set of eyes to come in and say, wait a minute, guys, listen to each other, validate one another. Dads have been suffering this for years. Moms are suffering this too. As you can see, here's two more right here. Okay. So, we're under that. We're preparing for this January 3rd. All the help we can get. We want all the help we can get on that day. We are not getting gas on that day, so free gas up. If you have a court date, you're in the perfect place to watch your judge go in handcuffs. Okay, I know some of your cases are so critical you may have to be in court. Okay, but be prepared to be a part of this day. Don't go to work on that day. Do not go to work on that day. Okay, what's more important, your child, your children, your family, or your job? And obviously, yes, you need your job to keep providing. A lot of you lost work because of this, but we have to do this because if we don't do this collectively as a nation, you can watch these videos for the rest of your life then. And we may not even have the opportunity to, because the suffering is going to get so great if we continue to allow them to do this. So we have to put a stop to it. We're basically simply exercising our rights to a citizen's arrest on a national level. It's not something that's ever been done before, but I know that we're all going to rock this. We're all going to rock this for sure. So I'm going to give more information about that. Like I said, we'll be doing more and more public meetings. We'll be doing a lot more lives, Facebook lives, illustrating what we're doing and who we're working for and who we're working with. And that's pretty much it regarding that. And so that date is January 3rd, 2018. And I finally did my own story, or at least a very good portion of my story. If you guys want to watch that, it's on my Facebook page. So it tells you why I chose January 3rd, 2018. And thank the good Lord, I was very successful in my fight. But we need the same thing to happen for everybody. And I'm happy to say that a lot of children are being returned now. So we're going to close with that. I just want to thank everybody and God bless each and every one of you. And everybody out there that's willing to help us with the January 3rd event, please get a hold of me or any of my team members. Thank you.
What's dear to me is dear to my God. I can't shed more tears, I know it's time to fight. It's time to remove the mask. For once let us be honest. We parents will not step back. Our children children